Part 4, BrightPath Curriculum, a balance of Emergent and Frog Street curriculum. BC and Ontario have developed an early learning framework. Alberta has accreditation standards and is in the process of developing an early learning framework as a guideline for early childhood practices that BrightPath follows. These guidelines provide us with an outline of best practices and learning expectations for quality early childhood programs. To ensure that BrightPath meets or exceeds all the provincial guidelines and expectations, we have incorporated a system of learning outcomes into our organization. BrightPath aims to provide a well-provisioned and engaging classroom where learning is present and we are able to describe it. Although we, in the industry of early learning, understand that play is the child's work and hands-on learning is key to the learning development for children, we need to be able to organize this learning in a way that allows administrators, parents, and colleagues to see it. To do this, BrightPath has created a balance of emergent curriculum with that of the learning outcomes of the Frog Street curriculum. We, the early childhood educators at BrightPath, are able to create a developmentally appropriate play environment and recognize the various types of learning that is taking place during these play periods. Each province also has a guideline that identifies the provincial kindergarten curriculum learning expectations, which BrightPath has incorporated into our learning outcomes for the older preschoolers, pre-kindergarteners, and kindergarten children. Merging these expectations into our own learning outcomes ensures that the children in our programs will be ready for school when they complete their learning at any of our BrightPath early childhood programs. A balanced approach enables teachers to incorporate children's voices, ideas, and interests with their own teacher-led focus for learning. Creating opportunities for children to take an active role in decision-making is important. As the greater degree of choice that children have in their learning, the greater the degree of involvement in their learning. A balanced approach to planning develops over time and with experience, as children and teacher become familiar and comfortable with the process. In practice, achieving a balanced curriculum involves balancing individual, small group, and whole group learning opportunities, responding to children, taking into account their different capacities and desires to work together and engage in topics of mutual interest. Looking for opportunities or hooks to incorporate aspects of curriculum content into the learning experiences that develop from a child's emerging interests. Monitoring the learning that is taking place and looking for gaps in the learning and development areas. Finding an opportunity to plant a seed when an important aspect of learning and development has not been evident in the children's interests. Introducing topics, knowledge, skills, and dispositions that children need to develop. Using daily routines and transitions as opportunities to extend learning. Balancing curriculums is a common practice, as many early childhood centers use more than one curriculum style in their program. Often you will see a blend of Montessori, high scope, creative curriculum, project approach, integrated curriculum, or emergent curriculum. So here is how we balance two curriculums, Emergent and Frog Street, to form one amazing and comprehensive curriculum. First, we complete our weekly planning for the Emergent curriculum using activities based on children's interests, needs, and abilities. Next, after all the activities have been laid out, we use the Frog Street weekly learning outcomes and goals to see which learning goals we should be looking for each week. Remember, every activity children participate in can demonstrate different learning skills. It's up to us, the educators, to recognize these learning styles and skills within each activity. Frog Street makes it easier for us by providing learning tools and activities that support our learning goals. Sometimes, we may notice that the activities may not meet the learning goals as well as what we would like. In this case, feel free to revise or add activities based on children's interests to meet these weekly learning goals. If you feel that you may need a few more ideas on activities that support the weekly learning goals, then refer to the Frog Street activities for excellent hands-on activities. Every lesson and activity presented in Frog Street are based on knowledge of child development and some general topics that children are typically interested in. Using both your activities and the ones in Frog Street will give the children lots of opportunities to explore and engage in a variety of activities. Frog Street activities are designed to do exactly what we aim to do in Emergent curriculums. Engage the children in activities that embrace what the children already know and extend children's knowledge of the world around them. Now, let's look at our planning forms again. We have the 4 forms we use for Emergent curriculum planning, and then we add on the Frog Street elements. Frog Street Weekly Learning Goals and Focus, and Frog Street Weekly Lesson Planner. First, we will look at how to bring in the weekly learning goals into our planning. At the beginning of each week in Frog Street, you will find the Focus for the Week. This will give you the 3 main learning domains we are focusing on every week: literacy, letter knowledge, and math. Character education is included in the Frog Street Greeting Circle, which we do every day to support the social-emotional development, so we leave that out of the weekly program planning. If you need more information on what learning goals we are setting each week, please refer to the Frog Street Weekly Learning Summary forms that BrightPath provides. It provides you with the Focus for the Week summary, as well as a more detailed outline of specific vocabulary, letter knowledge, and concepts and skills that are covered in the Frog Street activities that week. Now that we've covered the basic elements of balancing the 2 curriculums, let's look at some examples of how this is done on your planning forms. To complete the weekly planning, you will need the Emergent planning form, which already has activities and ideas written on them, and that week's learning focus or goals from Frog Street. We'll start off with looking at the Alberta and BC planning forms. Here you will see how to fill out the weekly planning and add the learning goals where you think they will fit best. Remember that most activities will already include the learning goals and will be learning many other skills during their play. It's just a matter of remembering to observe these specific learning skills. First, we write down on the weekly planning form the weekly learning goals from Frog Street. Next, we look at our planned activities and see where we could observe these skills. If you don't find an activity that you think is specific enough to easily identify and assess these learning skills, just add in a fun activity. Often, you will find that more than one activity and one learning domain or center will support the weekly learning goals. Please make sure that you have identified at least one activity that supports each of the weekly learning concepts or skills. For our staff in Ontario, your weekly planning form will look different, but will balance the curriculums the same way. First, we write down on the weekly planning form the weekly learning goals from Frog Street. Next, we look for where the learning skills and concepts are being supported in the activities we have already planned based on Emergent planning. Again, if you don't find that any of the activities support the week's learning skills and concepts, add in another fun activity. Make sure that you are supporting at least one learning concept a day, which shouldn't be too difficult as the children are learning multiple skills and concepts all day while they play and explore. Please note that in none of our weekly planning forms do we identify a theme. This is because children's interests vary and usually do not all follow the same theme. Even though Frog Street uses themes, which are based on children's interests in general, they are generally used to help us organize our thoughts and planning. Please use these themes as a guideline and for theme boards, as sometimes the themes may spark interest in some children and further their knowledge and learning. Finally, we have the Frog Street Weekly Lesson Planner. On this form, all you need to do is write down the dates and highlight which activities you chose to do that week. The greeting circle and some form of the closing circle are mandatory for all Frog Street rooms. All the lessons and activities in Frog Street fully complement the program, the learning goals, and can spark new interests and knowledge with children. So it's a good idea to add some of these activities into your program. Remember, we typically do between 18 to 22 activities a day in our classrooms. So balancing Emergent activities with Frog Street activities will only enhance the learning and play experiences for the children in your classroom. Well, we have now reviewed all the main components to the BrightPath curriculum and hope that you have learned something new and are ready to apply your knowledge and excitement to our team at BrightPath. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to ask your director or your education coach, who are both able to assist and support you when needed. I look forward to meeting you, and welcome to the BrightPath family.